Is Mount Gerizim the commanded place? The book of Deuteronomy describes the place. It says there is going to be this place that Elohim is going to choose to set his name there. And at this place is where the rituals are supposed to be done and where the offerings are being brought. However, it does not actually say where this place is. The traditional interpretation typically is that it's talking about a temple, even though it doesn't say this, and that it's talking about Jerusalem. But the Torah never mentions Jerusalem. There is also another view that sometimes arises that maybe this place is talking about Mount Gerizim. And typically this arises with the Samaritan-leaning groups, because supposedly the Samaritan Pentateuch asserts this. One of the first rumors that I heard about the Samaritan Pentateuch, which is their manuscript of the Torah, was that it supposedly has this extra commandment in the 10 Commandments. Either this 11th commandment or a different 10th commandment, depending on how it's described. Basically, what is claimed is that in Exodus 20, after the giving of the 10 Commandments, it says that instead of Jerusalem, that Mount Gerizim is the commanded holy place, the site which all the rituals are supposed to be done at. Does it actually say this, though? We can see that this is how it's been observed, but we can also look at Rabbinic Judaism and consider how they are supposedly following the Torah, but a lot of their interpretations and a lot of their observances are not actually according to the Torah text. So it's possible that just like with Rabbinic Judaism, there could be other groups with other manuscripts that may not be representing that fully in their observance and in their tradition. We can look at what their manuscript says. In Exodus 20, following the not coveting command, the Samaritan Pentateuch reads, "In your crossing the Jordan, you shall cause to raise these stones, which I am commanding you today, in Mount Gerizim. And you shall build there altar to Yahuwah your Elohim, altar of stones. You shall not cause to wave iron on them. Stones, complete ones, you shall build altar of Yahuwah your Elohim, and you shall cause to ascend on it ascents to Yahuwah your Elohim, and you shall slaughter pieces, and you shall eat there, and you shall brighten before Yahuwah your Elohim." So this passage that occurs at the end of the 10 Commandments in the Samaritan Pentateuch says that they are raising the stones at Mount Gerizim, and they are also building an altar there, an altar of stone. And at this altar, they are offering offerings, ascent offerings and peace offerings, and they are eating there and rejoicing. So at first, this passage in Exodus 20 in the Samaritan Pentateuch may seem kind of odd, because it's not represented by the Exodus 20 of the manuscripts we're probably more familiar with. But I want to challenge this and say, it's not really that out of place for the Torah. Because we can actually see in Deuteronomy 27, in the Masoretic manuscripts, it says, "In your crossing the Jordan, you shall cause to rise these stones, which I am commanding you today, in Mount Ebal, and you shall whitewash them in whitewash. And you shall build there altar to Yahuwah your Elohim, altar of stones. You shall not cause to wave iron on them." These two passages, the passage in Deuteronomy 27 and the passage in the Samaritan Pentateuch version of Exodus 20 are more or less word for word identical, with two exceptions. The mention of whitewashing them in whitewash or plastering them in plaster appears earlier in the passage in the Samaritan Pentateuch, Exodus 20, and also the difference in the mountain. In Deuteronomy 27, in the Masoretic text, it refers to Mount Ebal as being the mountain that this altar is being built on. In the Samaritan Pentateuch, it says Mount Gerizim, and this is also what it says in Exodus 20 in the Samaritan Pentateuch. Now, both of these manuscripts refer to Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim in Deuteronomy 27. The mountain which the blessing is being announced from is Mount Gerizim in both manuscripts, and the mountain which the curse is being announced from is Mount Ebal. The difference being which mountain the altar and the stones are being put on. So this isn't really that much out of place. It's simply out of place in the sense of appearing again in Exodus 20 in the Samaritan Pentateuch. It's not this drastically new command that just came out of nowhere. It's just a repeat of something that was already in the Torah, with the difference of the mountain. It is a possibility that Mount Gerizim is the actual mountain that the altar was supposed to be built on. That is a possibility. However, that being said, that has no bearing on the place. Deuteronomy does not refer to Ebal as being the place in the Masoretic text, and I'm not sure of anyone having asserted that either. So likewise, there is not this connection with Mount Gerizim being the place either. The place is not connected with either of these mountains in either of these manuscripts. So it is true that the Samaritan Pentateuch says to sacrifice on Mount Gerizim, but it is in this context. It doesn't say to set up a temple there. It doesn't say that this is the holy place where all the rituals are being done. Even though it may have been observed that way, that's not actually what the manuscript says. And in regard to what this place is, what is the place of Deuteronomy? I would refer to this wording in that passage. Deuteronomy 12:11. The place which Yahuwah your Elohim shall choose in it to tabernacle his name there. While Deuteronomy does not specify where this place is, I would suggest that what this place is the resting of the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, because it is the commanded holy place of the Torah, the place that the rituals are commanded to be done at. Thanks for watching. Feel free to check out some of my other videos on other Torah issues, and be sure that you stay in touch so we can continue this discussion. Thanks for watching. Remember the commands. Shalom.